Good day and welcome to 2024. It's the first day of the well, second day of the year, first devotional of the year, and so welcome to my devotional. Try to do this on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of each week. Now, of course, it doesn't always work out, but that's the plan. And so, anyways, we had a bit of a break over the Christmas season where we reduced the amount we were doing, but we're hopefully going to get back into this now regularly going ahead here. So here we are today, and so welcome. Hope you had a great Christmas season and New Year's celebration. We're in Proverbs chapter 7, verse 27. It's the last verse of chapter 7. The journey down through this chapter, we realize that the chapter is dominated by a story. A story being told of a hypothetical person who goes out and has an affair with this other hypothetical person. So it's an illustrative story meant to show us the whole dangers of seduction and how we have to be careful and so on. So that's the whole story, and we're on the last verse of it. And at verse 27, it says this. Now it's talking about the warnings, right? So it tells the story and then it gives the warnings about, it looks good, but it's not. And it comes to a conclusion of verse 27. It says this: her house, the one who seduces this young man in the story, says, her house is the way to Sheol, descending to the chambers of death. Now, that word Sheol is it's an ancient Hebrew word that just talks. It's a word for the land of the dead, the place, the grave. We could say the grave. Could say her house is the way to the grave, descending to the chambers of death. Right. So there's once again that poetry, that whole couplet way of poetry that we see throughout the book of Proverbs. And so there's this statement of, this man goes and he's looking to be seduced. She comes out, she wants to seduce him, and they go through this process. Now, she's married, she shouldn't be doing this. He shouldn't be going after another man's wife. And so then it all ends up in his doom. And so poetically at the end, it just emphasizes that point. Her house is the way to the grave. So the idea of this whole chapter, of course, is just leading us to this idea of avoiding the whole situation altogether, and recognizing the bad nature of it, but yet it's got this seductive quality, this drawing quality, something that draws you in. And throughout the whole thing, it's warning that. And so this last verse uses this interesting term. If you think about it, the poetry of it, her house is the way to the grave, to Sheol. It's bad decision. It's a bad decision. This house is it's a living place, right? That's what a house is. It's a place to live. But yet this house leads to the grave, which is the place of the dead. The chambers there, descending to the chambers, it would be almost like a way of saying, the bedrooms of the house, the rooms within the house, the chambers of death, right? It's like living spaces within the house. So they're actually dead spaces, death spaces within the house. So it's just an interesting kind of poetic way of saying it, but it emphasizes the nature of the bad decision. And so here's the question from this verse for our devotional today: is why is it? And, why is it that people make such terrible decisions in their life, like really bad decisions? Because we've all done it. I've done it. We've all done it. We make a decision, and after you've gone through the consequences of that bad decision, you're often like, why did I do that? And it's a real thing. We make bad decisions. And hindsight, as they say, is 2020. But is it possible to see in advance before you have to go through it and get to hindsight and look back on it? Is it possible to see in advance this is a bad decision? I think it is. Maybe not always, but I think it is most times. But we don't do it. So here's the question: if you had a poison, if I had a little vial here of liquid, and I was able to offer it to you and say, here it is. This is poison. It will kill you. It will be a painful death. Have a drink. We would all go, no, thank you. I don't want that. And we would just simply say no to it. Very simple. If that's all that was presented to you. But what happens? What if I say to you, here's a vial of really tasty liquid. It really tastes great. And it'll kill you and it'll be a miserable death. Would you take it? And of course, we would all say, well, no, I don't care how good it tastes. It doesn't matter. But then what if I was saying, well, no, but it really, really tastes good. It really, really tastes good. And before you die, it'll be great. And well, most of us in our right mind, forward thinking, would say, I don't care if it tastes really, really, or really, really, really good. Doesn't matter. it'll kill me, I'm not going to do it. Because we're able to see the value of life over the value of that little bit of taste, and the threat of death over the temporary pleasure of a tasty liquid, you know. But yet we don't do that with so many things in life. We choose things in life. Quite often humans choose things in life that will destroy their lives. Now, whether it be physical death, and the point in the proverb, the poetry of this is using literal death as the example, and often it can be, but the point here is the destruction of your life, right? And yet we often, human beings, we often make a choice of something that will destroy our lives, and we can have lots of warning that it will destroy our lives, like offering the poison and saying this will taste really good, but it will kill you. And we'll have the warning, but it will kill you. And yet still we'll be drawn in by the taste of the thing and make the bad decision. And only after the taste is worn off do we then go, oh, why did I choose this? Because now we have to face the death, and the taste is over. And that's kind of what happens. And you can think about this without examples. I'm sure you could come up with your own, but whether it be entering into a smoking addiction, and we people that get lung cancer and die, or they have other health complications, or just from a bad lifestyle choices that we know, not just ones that we sort of think, but that we know are bad lifestyle choices that will harm your life. Drug addictions, alcoholism are obvious ones, but even other things like here in Proverbs, where it's talking about sexual immorality and the sexual draw into things that will destroy our lives. It will, and we know better when we allow ourselves to think about it. We know better, but then make a bad choice. And then even more subtle things, and some of those obvious ones I've just listed, but we do that, and the reason is because of what we're looking at. So the example here is this woman whose house is the way to Sheol. If we look at the house, we go, that's a living place. That's a nice living place. But if we don't think about what's inside the house, right, it's actually the grave, then we just see the front. That's all we see, and we think it's a house, and we don't think about what's inside. And if we're really, really short-sighted, that's how we treat so many things in life. We just look at the outside initial view of it, and we don't allow ourselves to think about what's through the door and inside that place. We refuse it because we really like the fantasy. We really like the idea of the house that we see presented to us. And so we can be deceived by that. We can be totally fooled by that, and we fall into bad decision making. But often we actually are self-deceived. Someone says to you, that looks like a house, but inside it's actually a grave. You're going into a coffin. But because we really like the fantasy, we really like the idea, we refuse to listen. We don't want to hear about that. I'm just going to sit with what I see on the outside, and I'm just going to not let myself hear the other. And so we make the decision, we go through the door, and we're in the grave. It's all about being able to be self-contained enough to accept truths that we don't want to be true. Things that, looking past the fantasy or past the deception and into what really is there. And that is so hard to convince ourselves to do. And that is, of course, the whole journey of the book of Proverbs. And that's part of what chapter 7 is teaching, is don't fall for the seduction. Think beyond this evening. Think beyond this encounter. Think beyond what's right in front of your face, the door of a house, and what's inside there. And that wisdom is what we have to learn. And in order to learn it, well, of course, we're trying to do that by reading the book of Proverbs in the first place. But a big part of learning that is learning to say to yourself, I have to accept truth, not just what I want to be true, but what is really true. Even if it's something about myself that I have to admit, that I don't like to admit, or whether it's something about this person that I really like, but I have to admit some truth about them that I don't want to admit. They say love is blind. Well, love should never be blind. It should never be blind. You should always love with your eyes wide open, knowing fully what it is you're loving. And that kind of wisdom is hard to come by, because our emotions get in the way, our desires get in the way, and we want the house to be a great place with chambers that are living chambers. But if we don't learn that wisdom, then we will walk into a house that's actually a grave, and you'll end up in a coffin. And that's the lesson of chapter 7 of Proverbs. So anyways, that's it. Once again, it's just the whole idea is just to encourage us to seek wisdom. Now we're going to go into chapter 8 tomorrow, if God wills it, and we have our devotional tomorrow. Then we will be going into chapter 8, and chapter 8 is about the call of wisdom, and so it's kind of the other side of the coin, as it were, from chapter 7, and we'll get into that tomorrow. In the meantime, God bless you. Pursue God's wisdom, and may He really bless your 2024. And I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next time.